So today we're going to be talking about making maps, specifically fantasy maps that can be used in any kind of tabletop RPG. The program I like to use the most is Photoshop, but really you can make a decent map in almost any paint program if you have the right brushes. And most of these brushes can be found online, including the fonts. All you gotta do is find a font that you like. This font is called Duke Plus, and I love using it, especially for like final touches when you want to like name your map or the area. So, and also, I apologize for the quality of the video and the audio. I am staying over at my grandma's and I don't have my equipment. So right here, what I'm doing is I'm setting up the workspace for my continents. I usually make multiple layers, and then what I'll do is one of two things. I'll find a paintbrush that is roughly the right size and shape of a continent that I want to make. And in this case, it's kind of like a water stain brush, which works really good for making maps. And instead of just using it, I'm using it as an eraser to cut out the shape. And this is another thing I found online, which kind of has this kind of stained parchment effect, and it's really great for maps. In this case, I kind of went with one that looks like it's been stained with some kind of blue ink or green ink. So it makes it look like islands to me. And so the next thing I'm going to do is make the ocean or sea. This could also be in a lake. Keep in mind, when you're making a map, you don't really need to think too deeply on where this is at in your world, unless you've already designed your world. So if you're just kind of making a map for a game you have coming up and you don't really know where you want to set it at, you can set it anywhere. That's the best thing about making your own maps. Another good thing about making your own maps is that nobody is going to know anything about this world other than you. And so if a player asks you what's over there, you can say in a mysterious voice you don't know, or you can just make something up. The more important thing is that you write down whatever you said. So right now I'm cropping the image to work on a more smaller area. And eventually what we'll start doing is cleaning up the brushes and making it look more like islands or continents. And I'm gonna pick a bigger template, and then I'm gonna scale up the ocean and islands so that they are bigger and it'll be easier for my players to read the map. You don't really need to make it this big unless you're wanting your players to be able to zoom in. If you don't really care about your players zooming in, then you can really go with any size, but I would avoid anything smaller than 800 by 600 or 5 by 7 inches, unless you have like a lot of pixels, and I don't really know what I'm talking about. I really just make up most of this stuff. But as far as like using Photoshop, I like it because you can download almost any of these brushes for free. The program itself is not cheap, but these brushes are free, so you can use this as free as you want. I'm currently using Photoshop as a student, which makes it a lot more affordable, but if you can have a friend get you a free copy, I would do that as well. Although I don't advocate that kind of thing. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But I really do like using Photoshop. And especially for this kind of thing. So right now I am going to use an outline, or a stroke is what it's called here. I'm going to change the color to like a blue so that it works with the ocean. And if the music's annoying, I apologize as well. I tend to work really good with music, and so I like to put it in my videos. So yeah, as I zoom in, you'll start to see that around all these little edges is this kind of dark blue line, which creates a really nice effect. And you can also see the green stain is random, and so you don't really know what it's going to end up looking like in the final product. And that's kind of cool because it adds to the quality of your map. If once again you like the pattern. Some people don't. I prefer kind of more brown colors, but because this is an island, I like the green because I'm not going to be using a lot of color in this map. And so the green on the parchment texture looks really good. And also, when your players ask if the map is to scale, you can decide ahead of time one way or the other. I tend to say no. That way, whenever they're traveling, I can kind of guesstimate what I want to be. And so right now, I am picking a brush to make a lake, or if you want it to be a pond, it can be a pond, or even rivers. Right now, I'm going to pick a brush to make a lake, and then I'm going to downsize the brush so that I can put trees and hills and even mountains around some of these lakes. And like I was saying, as far as scale's concerned, you can make it up. You can say whatever you think is appropriate. And so another tip is to save and save and save and save and save. So right now I'm going to go in and clean up this lake a bit. And the other trick that I discovered was when making a map this way with multiple layers, just make sure you pick the right layer. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm erasing something from the top layer, which is creating a kind of like a little pond look to the map, and I don't like the way that looks, so I erased it. And so now I'm adding the map, the stroke to this layer so that the lake will have the same look as the outer edge of our continent. And once you've changed the stroke, it usually stays the same unless your settings are different. And so keep in mind that as we move on, we will clean up around the edges. We'll make things look a bit smoother. And so right now, I'm about to put on another lake. And then after that, I'll be adding a castle, which I like to use for our settlements, specifically large cities. Most of the time when players find out that you use the castle as kind of like the capital marker, they start looking for other symbols that are similar. And also, it's easy to remember that that's your capital. And then you just have to come up with names for your capital and anything other interesting facts. In fact, I had a player once ask me what the currency was in all of the kingdoms. And so I spent 2 weeks researching currency and then coming up with names for my own currency, and the player never asked for that information again. But I know it. So once again, when you're making your own map, you can make up all your own information, and it makes your players feel like you know so much about this world. And you do, but a lot of it's just made up. So, well, actually all of it's made up, but more importantly, you are in control of, what's on the map. If there's a druid over here, or if there's a dungeon over there, And if you don't know, you can make it up quickly. If your players decide to go into some creepy forest and you haven't come up with a name for it yet, you can just literally go to any random name generator and come up with a name for the forest, because it's your forest. It doesn't matter if you already came up with a name but you forgot it. Just make up one. More times than not, they won't really care about the name, or if they do, they'll think it's really cool and they'll have a really good time exploring it. So that's what I love about making my own maps. And all these brushes that I found either through DeviantArt or Google, and I'll do my best to include some links and in the doobly-doo, as Matt Colville says. So there it is. There's the castle, and that's going to be a capital. In the next video, I'll start laying down ships to kind of imply that there are docks nearby, or that there could be maybe good fishing, or maybe there are boats that you can charter there, or that's a pirate cove. Once again, making your own maps is was so great about all of this, is you can make up whatever you want, and it makes your game all the more better. And if you can't make your own maps, what I recommend is finding one that you really like and sharing that with your players. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to like, subscribe, or leave a comment. If there's anything you'd like to see made specifically, feel free to throw me a request. If I have time, I'll make the map for you. Until next time, I've been Matt, and I hope you have a good day.